Welcome to the podcast recording of Middle East AI News Live for Thursday, July 18th, 2024, brought to you by OnDemand, Turbocharged AI Product Development and Integration. You're listening to Carrington Malin's discussion with Professor Bernard Ghanem, Chair of the new Center for Excellence in Generative AI at the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, KAUST, where we talk about KAUST's artificial intelligence research, the goals of the new Center of Excellence, and what outputs we can expect from the center moving forwards.
In today's Thursday Deep Dive, we're going to be talking about the new Center of Excellence for Generative AI, formed by KAUST, the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in Saudi Arabia, which is one of the biggest research universities in the region. And in today's show, we'll be touching on more about KAUST and the university's research programs, KAUST's focus on artificial intelligence, the university's new Center of Excellence for Generative AI, the Center of Excellence's plans to create a GenAI factory to produce domain-specific AI models, and also how the Center of Excellence will focus its research effort. And I'm going to be joined by Professor Bernard Ghanem, the new chair of the Center of Excellence in Generative AI at King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. So a few notes on Professor Ghanem. Professor Ghanem is a professor in the Computer Electrical, Mathematical Sciences and Engineering Division at KAUST, and has been at KAUST for about 12 years. He's the theme leader at KAUST Visual Computing Center and has a keen focus on computer vision, machine learning, and image processing. Prior to moving to KAUST, Professor Ghanem was senior research scientist at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign in Singapore. His work, of course, has received multiple awards and honors. And Professor Ghanem is also the program chair for the ICC-V29, the Global Computer Vision Research Conference taking place in Dubai in December 2029. So a warm welcome to Middle East AI News Live, Professor Bernard Ghanem.
Thanks, Carrington. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you for the invite on the podcast. And I just want to start by commending you on your efforts with Middle East AI News. I'm a subscriber. I listen to you and I keep on reading all your news. It really is a great effort you're doing. We need more exposure of all the great and exciting things in AI that's happening in the region. Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing. Great to hear. Always great to hear news like that. I'm looking forward to hearing all about the Center for Excellence in Generative AI. And also getting your views on the GenAI landscape in Saudi Arabia, because quite a lot has changed over the past year. Thanks so much for taking the time again to join us. To start with, perhaps it would be good if we got a bit of a background on KAUST and the programs that KAUST runs, because it's a very big university and it has a lot of different focus areas.
For sure. So for those of you in attendance that are not aware of KAUST is the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. It's on the west coast, on the Red Sea of Saudi Arabia. It's been up and running since 2009. One key point to realize about KAUST is that it's a graduate level research university. So we only have master's and PhD students, many postdocs and research scientists working on various focus areas. They are aligned to health and wellness, sustainability, energy, industrials, and economies of the future. So we have faculty in three main divisions. I'm in the SEMC division, the CEMSE division. There are two other divisions that focus on physical sciences and another one on biology and environmental sciences. So basically, there's a lot of fields of expertise that span marine science, plant science, to mechanical engineering, biology, chemical engineering, and so forth. So AI is one part of all these focus areas. We have about 2,000 graduate students on campus. We have about 200 faculty across these three divisions. It's not a huge university, but we have critical mass in very specialized areas, and AI is definitely one of them. On the AI side, so AI has become a universal technology that could really benefit many areas, if not all areas of science and engineering. This is what we're seeing at KAUST. And this is what the GenAI Center of Excellence at KAUST is trying to do, trying to mobilize all researchers on campus at KAUST and beyond to work on GenAI and with GenAI for applications. And maybe in a bit, we'll talk about some of these applications, and you'll see that GenAI has a role to play in the various application fields, not only in terms of developing new LLMs or multimodal models, but their applications in some really exciting areas that will have real-world impact.
So the new Center of Excellence in Generative AI has been born out of, if I can say that, the AI initiative that KAUST has been running for the last few years. Do you want to give us some background on that and what it's been doing?
For sure. Since day one, like since 2009, I've been at KAUST for about 12 years. So since day one, KAUST faculty have been working on AI research. So we publish in the top tier venues of AI. And if one goes to csrankings.org, all rankings are flawed, of course, but some are useful. If you go to csrankings.org, it tallies up all the top tier publications in particular venues in computer science. And if you click on the subfields of AI, and that KAUST is very highly ranked. So we've, over the last decade and a half, we've been really publishing in these top tier venues in AI. So it's not as if we just started working on GenAI or AI. But the AI initiative that came up a few years ago, which I was the deputy director of, its mandate was to bring together faculty from all across campus and to incentivize them and allow them means to collaborate with each other, to really put AI at the center of the campus. Symbolically, the physical offices of the AI initiative were actually in the KAUST library, which is exactly in the middle of the campus part of KAUST, actually. So it was symbolic and figurative to have it in the middle, because really we see AI as a central technology that's cross-cutting and pan-campus. So there we had, of course, focus on core areas of AI, from machine learning, computer vision, language processing, general purpose systems for AI. But with the Center of Excellence focusing on GenAI, we're going to focus in our efforts that we started with the AI initiative on particular areas of interest for GenAI. So for example, you mentioned the Carrington, you mentioned the GenAI factory. That's what we're going to establish as the model developer. So the faculty working on problems corresponding to that factory will work on building the next generation models with the properties that we want them to have. And we can maybe go into details on that. But that factory is not going to be standalone. So the models from that factory will be customized and specialized by domain experts in the 4 application areas: health and wellness, energy, sustainability, and economies of the future, to be able to produce GenAI enabled applications that could revolutionize those application fields. And also we have something that encompasses all of that, is a plan and strategy to help with better adoption and wider adoption of GenAI tools by establishing a deployment platform whereby anybody who has created a GenAI model can contribute, and a non-expert can easily use this deployment platform to build up their own assistant or GPT like interface without needing to know anything about machine learning. It's a way that helps us get exposure to non-experts and have them use our models that we create very quickly. We'll also have outreach activities as well as training programs as part of the Center of Excellence. So in general, we're trying to take a comprehensive view of what's really lacking in GenAI, not only in terms of research, but also deployment, development, and talent development. So the GenAI Center of Excellence at KAUST over the next 5 years will really make a dent in all of these factors. And hopefully by the end of it, we'll see wider adoption of GenAI in applications as well as talent development, and many of the problems that we have today solved to a certain extent by GenAI.
You mentioned that the main goal of the AI initiative was to infuse the different faculties of KAUST with AI. And I've certainly seen evidence of that in the past few years with announcements of how AI is being used in environmental research and industrial research. So the experts that you talk about, the domain-specific experts, you have a lot of those already, right?
Yes, we do. For example, the chemical engineering program at KAUST. So at KAUST, a program is like a department in kind of US universities. It's the same terminology. We call it program at KAUST. So the chemical engineering program at KAUST is very highly ranked. I think it's number 7 or 8, depending on rankings, as well as our marine science and plant science programs. So we have domain experts in all of these different areas, and all the 4 RDI, the research, development, innovation, authority areas put forth by the kingdom, which are, by the way, not only of national importance, but worldwide importance. We have domain experts in all of these domains, and many of them, if not all of them, are excited and already have started using AI and Gen AI for their purposes. This is what's really cool. And I've collaborated with many of these faculty to put forth systems or solutions and models that could really help them in their scientific discovery pipelines. I can give examples of this in the plant science domain and the biology domain, where scientists in these domains, they still do a lot of manual labor in terms of analyzing data, image data, counting things, and processing raw data. And of course, AI can help there. But myself as an AI expert, I don't have the domain expertise needed to customize a solution. So working together with these domain experts and even having students on their end get trained in the basics of AI and GenAI and how to use the toolage, they actually together were able to put forth solutions that really expedited their scientific discovery pipelines. So for example, now things that would take them a whole day would take them a few seconds to do. And so instead of wasting time on menial, tedious, repetitive tasks that they do in their labs, they can focus on being more creative. And of course, that's a big goal of AI in the end, right? So yes, we do have domain experts, and we see that this is an opportunity for KAUST to really have real-world impact by joining forces with those domain experts.
There was a use case actually shared this week from KAUST where they were using computer vision to count seeds, very small seeds from plants, and save time and be able to do that en masse.
Yeah, so that example, I think my lab had something to do with that, and we worked on that project. So we have world-renowned, world-class researchers in plant science. They are trying to help with food security, being able to come up with innovative ideas for plants to live in harsh environments, like the environments in the peninsula, as well as in parts of Africa. So they have ideas of how to do that. However, for them to test out these ideas, they need to grow these seeds under microscopes and decide after 24 hours whether these seeds are going to make it and which ones don't. And they have a lot of possible potential seeds. That means a lot of these images that they have to take microscopically to see if these seeds have germinated or not. And of course, they, as a human scientist, a plant scientist, they can do, I was told by a domain expert, that they can analyze 50 of these images per day and counting tediously the seeds that made it and seeds that didn't to get their success rate. We built together with them a system that can do 50 of these images in a few seconds on a GPU. And that, of course, that removes this bottleneck. So now they can try out and be creative in potentially generating even more types of seeds that could even have better and better properties. This leads us to faster development, a faster cycle of scientific discovery. And this is why I feel AI has a huge role to play in how scientific discovery is done in the future.
Yeah, I can imagine counting all of those seeds must be just so tedious to do. You touched on the goals for the Center of Excellence and where this came from. And obviously this is in tune with the university's new strategy or revised strategy, which was announced recently, and the plans for the GenAI factory to look at domain-specific development of models, etc. So what does a GenAI factory look like to KAUST?
So for KAUST and for the Center of Excellence, the GenAI factory is at the middle of the center. It is the factory that will produce the next generation GenAI models with properties that address the technical challenges that still exist. So for those of you in the audience and users of these GenAI models, you know that they're not perfect. And this is what the GenAI factory is supposed to do research on and will come up with solutions for. So the technical challenges that still remain are many. So for example, multimodality, you mentioned this, Carrington, before. And by that, we mean the interaction of language with other modalities, especially images, videos, audio, and so forth. So there's still a lot of things that we don't understand with multimodal systems. I myself, like my lab and other labs, we've shown that there are many sources of hallucination that are happening in these multimodal models just because of one modality dominating the other, primarily language modality dominating the other. So we need to fix these things, in order to deploy them in a real-world application to have real-world impact. We need to figure out why these hallucinations come up and how to fix them and address them. Another property of interest to us is allowing these methods, these Gen AI models, to continually learn. So you hear of these releases of LLMs and multimodal LLMs, but the point is that in industry, where there's a data stream, data is coming in all the time. It doesn't have to be just industry, but in government and in academia, you have a data stream. You have a stream of data coming in all the time, and you want your model to stay up to date with the stream. This is why there should be, and this is what we do at KAUST, there's a focus on something called continual learning, learning continually from this data stream. It's important to understand that, and we have research to show this, that when these LLM models and that are being put forth to the public, one has to intelligently figure out how to continually update them on the go with the data stream, because you cannot just load the data all together and then retrain from scratch. It's too expensive and it's too timely. So continual learning has to step in. And there's a big problem in continual learning, which is if you just update on the new data coming in, then you forget some of the past data. So there's a major technical issue here that has to be resolved in terms of continually updating the Gen AI models to keep up to date with the data distribution change. There's also a plan for us in the factory to take a step towards AGI through better generalizability of these Gen AI models. So taking a Gen AI model that was trained in a certain domain and it's still able to adapt to another domain and generalize to that domain without tedious retraining. There's also two major efforts on efficiency. So what I mean by efficiency, it's both in training as well as in inference. Right now, for those of you who are fine-tuning your Llama models or other open source models or creating things from scratch, you understand how expensive this could be, especially at scale. So the question is, do we need to keep using the same techniques for training from scratch or fine-tuning that we're using today? Are we using the data at our disposal in the most efficient way? That's on the training side. On the inference side, we all want LLMs and multimodal models and high capacity models to be on our mobile phones, to be on our edge devices. How do we get a step towards that beyond just discretizing the parameters, but really intelligently figuring out how to do a hardware, software co-development of these Gen AI models so that they can reach a point to be as efficient as possible to be deployed, hopefully on the edge, so everybody has access to them, not through API calls, but actually on the device itself. So these are just some of the technical challenges that still, of course, there's one more that it's very dear to my heart, and I do work on it. It's on trustworthiness and reliability of Gen AI. And by that, safety. So what are the elements of standardizing the measurement of safety on Gen AI models? And how do you go forth and make them more safe? And what I mean by that is, as an example, data leakage. So for example, these Gen AI models are trained on lots of raw data. Some of this data might include some sensitive information about users. There have been lots of papers on ways to create backdoors to access this data. There's a lot of research on this. This is something that you want to not happen. Also, in terms of creating content that is not aligned, that's not safe for user consumption, maybe specific to certain geographies or cultures. This is something of great importance also. So AI safety is a big direction also that we're taking in the Center of Excellence Gen AI Factory. Think of all the technical challenges still remain for more wider adoption of Gen AI in the world, and the factory will try to solve and resolve all of these through continuing our research excellence in the field.
So does the factory has a focus on solving these big technological challenges and on creating models for different domains that align with national priorities?
That's correct. So the factory would be improving Gen AI models in terms of all the different aspects that I mentioned to you, because these are critical aspects that need to be resolved so that you can apply them really reliably to all the industries, all the applications. These are general purpose technological problems that need to be solved. And while solving them, you want to also be applying them and making use of domain expertise to customize them for the various application fields that I mentioned, those 4 pillars.
So I was going to ask this a bit later on, but it's relevant to what you've been talking about now. So how will the Center of Excellence identify and prioritize research projects? Because it has quite a wide brief.
Yeah, that's been on our mind since day one. And this is why we put forth this idea of a partnership or a partner consortium. One important point to mention about the Center of Excellence is that we do not work in vacuum. We work with a consortium of partners, local, regional, as well as international. These partners help support our efforts, our research, and our activities. And also they give us this grounding in the real world that we need to focus in on these various applications and technical challenges that are faced. So we don't want to just come up with the research problems for the sake of it and then solve them for the sake of it. We don't want to be like the ivory tower of research when it comes to this. So we ground ourselves by having this partnership consortium. And through the partners, we understand what is the real world value of GenAI, where it could be very useful, where it may not be that useful, and where it could play a major role, as well as the technical challenges that face real world GenAI deployment. And actually, we came up with our research strategy in the applications and in the factory by talking to our partners. And there's been so much consensus on many of these technical challenges that we had in mind, and some new ones that we added to specialize these ideas for the various industries that the partners work on. So there's the various application areas and the projects within came out of discussions with our partners. And like I said, the partners are international and local, so you see a combination of these both together. For example, on the energy side and on the health and wellness side, there are local partners of ours that can hone in and focus in on maybe what diseases to focus in at the beginning. What are the typical nationally important research problems in these two sectors that we can start with. But of course, we evolve with more partners coming in and more ideas coming in from these different directions. We'll evolve our project offering, of course. But we have to start somewhere. And what we did is we talked to more than 20 partners in corporations, government, as well as industry, all together. And this is what we came up with as a research plan. And I think it resonated with all the partners that we talked to.
I imagine partnership is actually quite a job.
Yes, it is a full-time job. So we have actually at KAUST a research partnership unit and a whole team that helps us and supports us with that. We also have at KAUST something called the NTI, the National Transformation Institute. This was made available, I think this was launched more than a year ago. And its purpose is to translate a lot of the research that happens at KAUST into higher TRL, technical readiness level solutions on the path towards commercialization. So we're getting a lot of support internally at KAUST to interact and engage and set up agreements with partners, as well as another partner in NTI to help us take us then further towards commercialization. KAUST has set up this support system in which you can do basic research, go up the TRL path towards more applied research, and then get support to even go further. I think we've created a little ecosystem of ours with partners, of course, that can take our research to the next level.
Where do you think this research fits in context of Saudi Arabia and what's happened and what is happening in developing AI and models and platforms and solutions in Saudi Arabia, and where the new GenAI factory will be able to add value where few others are able to?
We consider KAUST being a graduate level university, very multinational. We have more than 120 nationalities on campus, by the way. It's very diverse. And we have research excellence and world-class faculty and researchers working with us, and students that graduate from KAUST and go all over the world in Saudi Arabia and beyond. And a lot of the partners that we talk to are those organizations that have made such great strides in the last year on GenAI. For example, one example that you had mentioned is Alam, which is the Arabic LLM from Sadaya, Saudi Data and AI Authority, who are a great partner to the Center of Excellence. Actually, we have a separate Sadaya KAUST Center of Excellence hosted at KAUST, where we do a lot of great basic and applied research together. So Sadaya has been working on Alam, the great this Arabic trained in-house, and the recent milestone was it's going to be offered this, I think the 17 billion parameter one, or the smaller version one, is going to be offered through IBM Watson X, their online services, and it's going to be available to people in the kingdom for use. They have a lot of other great examples of real-world impact through understanding not only language, but also dialects. So they have been working really hard on curating data sets of many dozens of dialects in the Arab world to help with automatic speech recognition, as well as alignment to the different cultures or subcultures that we have here in the Arab world. So they've done a great job, and they've announced these things in the last year. Of course, you might have heard of Aramco's push towards GenAI and their announcements in the last year with their partnerships with Sambanova for an industrial LLM, one of the biggest, because Aramco, of course, is not only an energy company, but they are a data company, because they're sitting on top of a humongous mound of data, especially in the energy sector. And they're putting forth plans and executing those plans to actually make use of that data through their own GenAI efforts. And they announced these this year with lots of partnerships. So these are just two examples, and both Aramco and Sadaya are supporters and partners of our Center of Excellence. So together, we will work on focusing on areas of technical challenges that both the partners are not working on, or they haven't thought about yet, or we can help support them in solving them. Since we are the research partner that has the talent, more than 300 researchers in the fields of AI that can be deployed to these challenges that maybe our partners by themselves won't have the bandwidth, or capacity, or desire to do. So together, I think, and with Aramco and Sadaya as two just examples of that, together we will execute the plan that we put forward, and these solutions that we are building and new models that we're generating will not only lead to published papers in the top venues as we've always done, but also through our partners will have real world impact. They will help us deploy these solutions on real world data, and they will lead to real world impact. This is a big added value that we see the Center of Excellence having.
What is your relationship with national entities and access to national data like that? How much data do you have access to, and are there relationships and programs there to allow the university to work with national data?
So what I do know is that there's a national effort to avail much of this data. Of course, there's some of this data is sensitive and it needs to be anonymized or it cannot be shared. But there are efforts, and I think Sadaya is leading this effort as an organization to make available many of these sources of public data that can be shared to the wider public, so that people can come up with various solutions for that. So I think a platform is being built to allow for this data availability. But from a KAUST perspective, actually, KAUST is also a data generator. So like I said, we have a lot of world expertise in the various fields of science and climate modeling, plant science and biology and so forth. So we create a lot of data ourselves, but of course, nothing in comparison to many of our partners. When we get into partnership agreements with our partners, there is depending on the project itself, we can get access to this data and we work together on it. We always encourage open source development, so code and data when possible, of course. So we're always encouraging our partners to at least open source some of their data so that the wider public and the developer community can work with them on these new problems that they avail data for. In terms of research projects that we have with individual partners, we get access through them, but we also have our own way of creating data relevant to the research that we have. Let me just give you one example on this. This is an exciting project as part of the Center of Excellence, and it is something dear to my heart because actually I'm working on this too. We call it the Lab of the Future. It is what we believe what scientific discovery should be in the future. And we're focusing here on chemistry and chemical engineering. So at KAUST, we're fortunate enough to have acquired and customized a robotic chemistry lab. So this is a lab whereby humans don't have to move beakers from place to run the experiment, to measure the outputs of the experiment. you interact with an interface, a digital interface, to determine what the experiment you want to run. It could be a batch of experiments altogether, because this robotic lab can do a bunch of experiments in parallel. And you interact with it with a digital interface, and then you click enter, and the lab does these experiments, and it measures the outputs at the end. The project that we have in mind here is that we are building a foundational model for chemistry, particular chemistries of interest, catalysis, direct air capture for CO2 sequestering. These specific chemistries, we want to build foundation models for them so that we put forth something like an AI chemist that can interact with this robotic lab and run it 24/7 for the purpose of maximizing throughput, minimizing cost, or whatever the real world reward is. But to build this foundational model, you need to have a lot of data, especially simulation data, quantum simulation data for molecules and reactions and so forth. And we're doing that already at KAUST using our supercomputer. I'm just saying that depending on the application itself, we could partner with other organizations to get access to some of the data, but also we have such data sources in-house, especially in chemistry, for example, and climate modeling also.
That's quite an exciting project. So to put you on the spot a little bit here, if we're to look at the coming year, what are the sort of things that we're likely to hear from the Center of Excellence?
So for the first year, and it's putting me on the spot a little bit and my colleagues on the spot, but I'm confident they will deliver. I think for the first year, at least, we will be targeting some low-hanging fruit applications that can deliver within a year, on which we've been already working on. For example, that we're already starting to see fruit in the GenAI plus health and wellness sector. A colleague of mine, Professor Xin Gao, he works as a computational biologist, and he has great ties with hospitals in the region and other places. And for example, he had just got a paper published at Nature Communications, and it's called GPT-4. So it's basically an assistant, a multimodal assistant, in which you can take a picture of your skin. For example, you might have a rash of some sort or something going on with your skin, and you want to ask questions about it. What is this disease, if any? What kind of treatments could there be? What should I do? If any of you are like me, like I take that seriously, especially with all the sun that we get exposed to in the Middle East. So you take a picture and then you start talking to the skin image. And this is why it's called Skin GPT. So I feel that the first year, we're going to just cultivate a bunch of models in the application fields we already have been working on. I expect something similar in the sustainability sector, where we will see implant or embed GenAI models to allow for better access to Earth observation data, satellite images, climate models, and so forth. For energy, there are some low-hanging fruits still there. And for economies of the future, we plan on putting forth a strong step towards a tutor, an AI tutor, especially using the Arabic language. So I think by the end of the first year, those would be possible. But in the years to come, we're going to be solving, like I said, those challenging technical problems, so that by year 3, I would say, that robotic lab that we talked about, we will actually have that foundation model, that actually have that AI chemist that's actually running experiments to discover new materials that we've never seen before and have better properties than the materials that we have right now. That will take time. But for the first year, I believe I call them low-hanging fruit, but these are not simplistic systems or applications, but they are systems built on a lot of research that's already been done so far. So we'll capitalize on that in the first year, and then for the longer term efforts, we will deliver on that in year 2, 3, and 4.
Exciting stuff. I can see we're going to have to invite you back at a later date.
Anytime.
For organizations that are interested in forming research partnerships with KAUST, and in particular the Center of Excellence for Generative AI, what's the process that they should keep in mind for that? And what are your priorities in terms of engaging with the public and private sectors?
We have open arms to all partners, to be honest. And the partners that we've already had received support from and support letters from, they across the gamut in terms of public, private, and no one size fits all for all partners. Some partners are interested in most things that we're putting forth in our strategy, both the factory as well as the application fields. Some are specifically targeting particular research projects in particular application fields. And some are wanting to partner with us to get early access to the talent development that we're doing. So, for example, our students that are going to graduate soon and whatnot, they like to partner with us so that they get access to them and maybe in the future headhunt them. So different partners have different objectives, but all of them there's consensus on the fact that this center of excellence or the strategy that we have is leading to something that will make real world impact. This is our cornerstone. This is the mandate that we have, like real world impact beyond just top tier publications in research venues. We've already established that, and we're going to keep on doing that. Don't get me wrong, but it's going one step beyond. For those partners interested, reach out to me, and together with the research partnership team at KAUST, we can figure out the best way of interacting with each other, collaborating. The type of support that we receive from partners, they come in the form, of course, financial support for the activities that we have, sponsoring students, researchers, research projects, but they also can get in the form of in-kind contributions, computational resources, data access, and so forth. So really no one size fits all, but we're open to all partners, big and small. So please reach out to me and we can figure out a way to work together. Of course, we're trying to focus in on those 4 areas. So partners in those 4 areas would be welcome. So of course, like I said, Sadai and Aramco are just 2 of these examples. But if we focus in on, those are the ones that we want to really focus in on. So partners that work in these 4 different fields, we want to work with them to follow through with the strategy that we have for those different application pillars. Just in summary, we're gearing up to adding more partners to the consortium. Anybody interested, reach out to me or the research partnership team at KAUST, and we'll have a discussion and we'll see how to work together.
And these 4 pillars are health and wellness, sustainability, economies of the future, energy and industrials. We've got a few minutes left. I'd be interested to talk a little bit about talent, which you just touched on in a couple of minutes ago. There's obviously a global shortage of talent in AI and data science, particularly when you look at the high end and the research needs of developing new models and solving some of the challenges that you mentioned earlier. How do you see the talent ecosystem and talent pool in Saudi Arabia developing? And you mentioned that KAUST is contributing to that and working with other Saudi organizations on that. Can you elaborate a little bit?
I think this is one of the main obstacles still remaining for more development and more uptick or adoption in GenAI in the region and beyond. It is not a regional problem, but in the region, the access to talent, especially high-end talent, is, I think, much farther behind in other parts of the world. I've gotten this question before, and my answer is I liken it to having 1 fish in a pond and 10 fishermen. And each fisherman can provide packages and salaries that are very high because there's only one fish in the pond. We need to create more fish, basically. We need to develop more fish for the fishermen because the fishermen are hungry. They need more fish. So KAUST has played a major role in this, not only now, but years before. So, of course, we have our own master's, PhD students, people who intern with us and so forth. That's of course, that's guaranteed, but we're not talking about huge numbers here, right? So hundreds or we need to reach thousands and tens of thousands and even more of people, not only that are experts. You don't need to be a PhD holder or a master's degree holder in GenAI or AI in general to have an impact. There's different tiers. You could be a practitioner. You could be a prompter. You could be, of course, an expert. So there's different tiers, and KAUST is trying to hit on each of these layers of development, not only within KAUST, but outside KAUST. We have something at KAUST called the KAUST Academy, and it is focused on availing training programs beyond KAUST, outside KAUST actually, to non-KAUSTees in the kingdom in particular topics. And AI has been the first topic that they've chosen for a good reason, and it's been super successful. And there's different layers of training that they give. So, for example, there's a beginner to AI kind of training program. It's a week-long program that we usually announce. It happens in Jeddah, Riyadh, Dammam in the same week. And there's hundreds of young professionals being trained in this program during this 1 week. And this is despite the thousands of applicants that go to this program. We can't host everybody all at once because there's a physical limitation, because we take a hands-on approach to the training program. You bring in your laptop, you get trained on specific kind of practitioner level basic tools with AI. That's for a week. And then those people that showed the most promise and the most interest go on to the next level of training, which could be a month long, 5-6 weeks. And then even beyond that, there's an advanced level program for AI that includes GenAI and other subtopics. So this is what KAUST is doing through the KAUST Academy. And of course, my students, myself, my researchers, we contribute to the KAUST Academy by contributing teaching assistants, teachers, curriculum building. We help them build the infrastructure for that and deliver it. But with the Center of Excellence, we're going to take a specialized approach beyond just helping and supporting, but also we're going to build specialized training programs, practitioner level programs in GenAI that could be developed through a MOOC, like an online course, but also through residency programs. So we feel that this is a very important and distinguishing factor here. So some of our, especially local partners, they're interested in this residency program. What I mean by that is developing talent within the partner organization. And that's through, for example, partner employees coming to KAUST, getting embedded in research activities, research projects, publishing a paper, and then going back to their institution with these research skills made available. The reason why we partners are interested in this, because there's a need, there's a yearn to build research efforts within organizations, because these research efforts could be a distinguishing factor for these partner organizations to attract talent, retain talent, and give them a ladder to talent development through research. So research is not only a luxury, but it's a way to attract, like I said, attract talent, retain talent, and do talent development. We have all these different aspects of talent development outside KAUST through the masses, through KAUST Academy, inside KAUST through our own PhD students and researchers, as well as residency programs through our partners.
Very good overview. Thank you very much. We're all out of time. Bernard, thank you so much for joining us today on Thursday Deep Dive.
Thank you so much, Carrington, for the invite, and I look forward to maybe talking again.
I do hope so. I've been talking to Professor Bernard Ghanem from KAUST, the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, and
You've been listening to a recording of Middle East AI News Live for Thursday, July 18th, 2024, by Carrington, Malin, brought to you by OnDemand. Thanks for listening.